Good evening, folks. Welcome back to another Monday night live stream. This time, not on my own. So if anybody saw, go on, tell everybody how you feel. You
Sick.
you feel nervous about it. You haven't got a glass of wine with you this time.
I know, just orange
You're
juice.
doing this sober. I haven't got my hot blackcurrant tonight. I'm mixing it up. I've gone for cold blackcurrant. Rock and roll. What can I say? So yes, we're just
Risky.
So you can stay as long as you want. You can leave whenever you want
Thank
to.
you.
There's no pressure. The door's not locked and everything's fine. But yeah, so if anybody did see our, was it New Year's Day, wasn't it? The New Year's Day Friday live stream that we did. I had fun.
It was good fun.
You said you enjoyed it, and I know that
I did drink quite a bit of wine.
You did drink a little bit of wine, but not like to the point where you forgot where you were.
No.
But yeah, I think let's say you're a little bit more nervous about this evening than you were back then. I think. So
pressure. It's a bit of pressure.
A bit of
you
pressure.
trust in me?
I do trust you. How bad can it be? He says. But yeah, tonight we're going to be talking about a couple of things actually. So first of all, we're going to be talking about, I mean, the title is kind of gaming with your other half, and essentially what I'm trying to talk about tonight is there's a lot of us are in lockdown now. Gaming stores are closed. Even if you're not like kind of like confined to your home, you might not be able to have other people around. You might not be able to get to gaming stores, and a lot of sort of gaming now can potentially only happen at home. And when I say with your other half, like, yes, with me, it's going to be me and you because our little boy's 4. He's not
he's not going to play, is he?
But this is relevant for if you live on your own and you can have like what they call like a bubble with one person. They might not be a gamer. You might want to try and play some games together. If you've got like older children and stuff.
Yeah.
So that's what it's about. It's not just about your other half. And I also want to give. I'm out of breath here. I ran round.
Shocking.
I know.
Shocking.
Like just as we went to go live, there's a toilet in this room, and I flushed the toilet, and it just kept filling up. And I was thinking that's going to do that all night. So I kind of ran round and went and saw it. And now I'm like, oh, I'm back. Yes, the other thing I'm going to talk about.
Good facepalm moment. Now.
The other thing I'm going to talk about is I've got 5 games that I think are good kind of entry points for getting like a non-gamer started, maybe during lockdown, and I'm trying to stay away from board games because I think other people know board games better than I do. I'm sure they've got some better suggestions, but we'll talk about board games during the night as well. But the 5 I'm suggesting tonight are probably more what you would call miniatures games. So let's see who we've got in the chat. Marcus in nice and early. Good afternoon, I should say. I was about to say good evening.
It's early, that.
I know. What can I say?
Eager beaver.
Eager beaver. Yeah, that was that. Lord Maiden was in as well. Hello, mate. How are you doing? Mark Wright in as well. Hello, Mark. Ortega. See you on the rerun, mate. As always. ASDF in as well. Blizzard's in. Tony Howell says hello, all you lovely people. Hope you're all keeping well. I'm not too bad. How's you?
I'm good.
There you go. Palmsy's in as well. Hello, mate. Rob's in as well, saying he's here way early. Hope everyone is doing good. Nice to see you, Rob. Palmsy said, I want to know where he got those boxing gloves made up and if they're going to be on the merch store. To be honest, mate, they're on the floor on the side of the camera. They are our boxing gloves. So when we do kind of like in the past, we've done like boxing training, but they were just Photoshop made. I haven't gone to the expense of getting BlackJack boxing gloves made. That's for sure, mate. So no, they won't be available on the merch store. Good evening, Christian. Hope you're well, fella. Busy's in as well, saying good evening, hobbyheads. John Estel, good evening, mate. He's building boats. Looking forward to this and any ideas. Well, hopefully, mate, might be a few ideas to help. One more thing I wanted to talk about as well, I've just remembered, is I wanted to kind of give like 5 tips as well. If you're going to play with like a non-game or somebody that's just getting somebody that's got interested in wanting to play games with you, 5 kind of tips to not scare them off with the first game. So yeah, that's something else we'll chat about as well. Simon Dave's in as well. Hello to you. Marcus is saying he just got back from the store and I have one thing to say. I hate slow drives. Jeff Higdon, happy Monday all. James Bray, good evening to you as well. He said he's been off work today and his brain thought it was Sunday, so a stream is a nice surprise. There you go, mate. That's just kind of brightened your evening up now, isn't it? Yeah. Peter Nicholas says Happy Monday, the live chat, not the band. Not that I dislike the band. Speaking of the Happy Mondays, did you see that Bez has been doing like a fitness
Joe
thing?
Wicks.
Yeah, what's it called? It was called Buzzing with Bez. I bet he is. Ryan Keat, good evening, mate. How are you doing? I hope I've pronounced the surname right there, Ryan. He says this topic has even got the other half interested, so watching it on the TV rather than the mobile. We've been promoted. We've been promoted on the big screen now.
Telly.
This time the TV, next week on the cinema. Bloggy's in as well, says good evening guys and gals, how's everyone been? Nice to see you, mate. Tony says he's carrying on hobbying this evening, installing some pipe work on scratch build base for Mr. Ears. You won't know what any of that
I've got
meant.
no idea.
Mr. Ears is a miniature. It's a character. Good evening, Scott. How are you doing? Tasty Brain Drain's in as well. Nick's in as well. Good morning from Australia. Stu Hayes, good evening to you, mate. Coxie's in as well. Dirk's back. Chris Warden says good afternoon. He said I was here 6 hours ago. It was a lot quieter then. It's funny that, mate. Yeah, it's nobody around when it's not on. Marcus is saying here from Texas there. Stu says good evening and good morning. All interesting topic tonight. As always, I kind of I spend most of my Monday going, what the hell am I going to talk about tonight? And I literally kind of like Lou was on a call this afternoon, and it was like, Lou, I don't suppose you fancy doing a live stream. And I've got an idea, but it would be much better if it wasn't just me sitting talking about it. So
here I am.
So here she is. Yeah, I promise. Look, there's no ropes. She's not being forced. There's no gun to her head.
Might be a couple of shots of vodka in there.
You wish. Flying Mama's giving away with their hello, Ruth. How are you doing? Tony says my money's on Lou in the third round by TKO.
Definitely.
Somebody said in a Facebook group today, say like, I'll put my money on Lou in the second round, and I said I'd take them odds. I don't think I'd survive the first. Tony saying hello, Andy and Lou. Hello, mate. Marcus, good evening to you. Everyone, now we're getting to when it started. Everyone's saying welcome back, Lou. Peter saying that reminds me I've got to put a beer in the fridge. Kodos, good evening to you, Kodos as well. Scott saying howdy Lou. Simon as well says glad to see both you guys tonight. Long time watcher, first time commenter.
Ooh.
Simon, thank you very much, mate. I did actually read your comment as well in the competition, the 10,000 subscriber giveaway, and it might have been, if I'm remembering rightly, it might have been your comment that kind of triggered this as a suggestion, mate. So thank you very much for commenting and watching as well, mate.
It reminds me of Metro Radio. What's he called?
Alan Robson.
I'm a first-time caller.
First-time caller, yeah. Long-time listener, first-time caller. I'm a first-time caller. I'm a bit nervous. We did talk about that once on a live stream, yeah. All disappeared over there.
Yeah.
I know. I found myself again now. Everyone's saying hello to you as well. James is saying, don't worry, no need to be nervous. I'm on the wine if that helps. See?
Look at you.
So you don't have to be nervous because everybody else is drunk, so it's fine. It's the other way around this time. Christos is bold of you to assume I have an other half. Yes, mate, that's what I was saying. It doesn't matter whether it's family, friends, or whatever else. It's really about kind of generally people that you tend not to game with because maybe in the past they've not necessarily been interested. Maybe in the past you've wanted to get away and play games with other people, and like that's where you get your kind of like your time away from home. But yeah, that's lockdowns true. And stuff are a bit different now. Pomsy saying no pressure at all. It's all the biggest and best stream on Monday night. Yes, mate. Peter saying welcome back, Mrs. Blackjack. Lou will win the contest, obviously. And James says Blackjack, the #1 Monday stream by a northerner about models, booze and food that starts at 9 p.m. Palmsy, thank you very much for the donation. I've just seen that with the corner of my eye. Cheers, buddy. Thank you very much. Andy Smith is saying hey. Him and Kath are there. Kath's his wife. She's playing some minis as well, so she's being dragged. Oh yeah, that's what I forgot you were there, which was in. Chester Kennedy says my wife has played a couple of Birds and Badgers games with me. Nice one, mate. Good choice. Christian says Disney Villainous is a fun board game to play with your other half and all the family. I've played it once before, like with friends, if you like, but I don't own it, and it's something I keep meaning to kind of pick up at some point. I think you might like that as well.
I've heard of that before.
It's basically all the Disney villains, so like in a board game, but it's not like one of these that you just pick up in Tesco because it's got Disney on it, and it's actually like a very well thought out board game.
Has it got minis in?
No, it hasn't. You're already
I was thinking Jackson would pinch them off you.
Yeah, you probably would, yeah. Simon is saying board games is how me and my better half met, and Batman Love Letter was our first game we played together. We've played Love Letter, can you remember? The little in the little red velvet pouch.
Yeah,
that's the one, yeah. That. Not the Batman one, no, I didn't know there was a Batman one until now. Henrik is saying a game with a Dutch manual. That would probably help you, mate, wouldn't it? It would be no use to me, but it would help you. Paul says, I thought buzzing with Bez was going to be freaky dancing, but it's a proper workout. I know. I just thought he was just going to be on drugs, just sitting there smiling for like an hour or something. Marcus says, I do not speed while driving. I like having a good record, but people who drive, all our friends use it. Let's get really detailed now, mate. Yeah. I'm not one for. I've had a pretty bad license for speeding points, to be fair. So
not now.
No, not now. I'll never go anywhere
now.
Mark's saying, bloody hell, you two after Ant Dick's job. There's always time, isn't there? Well, new career for your love.
Why not?
Josh Lawson, does alcohol help engaging the other half in playing Warcry? If you drink enough, mate, you might just wake up the next day thinking that you had a game. That might be enough.
Dream about it.
Bloggy saying he had to miss the live streams for the past few months due to physical therapy, but now that's done, I'm back to being a mainstay. Welcome back, mate, and I hope you're feeling better. Kieran's in as well from Odd Side of Dice podcast saying hello. Warwick's in from Oklahoma. Don't burst into song. I know that you were thinking it when you.
Can't help myself.
I knew you were thinking it. Paul M's as well from High Spend. High Spend, that hasn't got a song about it as well, but I can sing if you want. Andy Smith, cider and beer. Simon said that was his comment from the 10k video. Yes, thank you very much, mate. I'll be honest, all the comments that folks have been putting for like things they'd like to see more of, or things like they enjoy seeing, it's been really, really helpful for me. There's a good mix of comments, some stuff I would never have even considered, and it's nice to see some patterns as well, which gives me some like ideas of there's big chunks of people want to see more of this, or they like this bit, so keep doing it kind of thing. So yeah, thank you everyone. The competition's not over yet either. You've still got until the 14th of February, so if you haven't watched my 10,000 subscriber giveaway video, please do. Comment on it. You can win yourself a mega army for Kings of War from Mantic. Excuse me. Charming there. Andy Smith says cats on a pint of wine. That sounds like a better idea, doesn't it? Pint of wine. Marcus is saying, do their voices in our head count as other halves? They do if you're playing solo games, mate. Tasty Brain Drain says, I wish I was drunk. Especially after yesterday's game. Yeah, don't talk to me about Saturday's one either, mate. Scott's saying, evening all can't stop overtime. He'll catch the rerun. Yeah, Ryan's saying the pressure's on because we're on the big screen now. Corda says, big question for me. If Dead Zone, Kings of War Vanguard or a co-op game is better to start. I'll come on to this in a bit more detail later, mate, but there's reasons why I would not suggest Dead Zone or Vanguard for complete beginners. And I think it's because I think a lot of people would, but I think we think that everybody thinks about miniatures games the way we think about them. And there's a few reasons why I probably wouldn't suggest those ones. Flying Mammal says Batman love letter is the best love letter.
Ooh,
just because it's Batman, that's why.
Get it.
Arnold says it's a duo channel nowadays. Hi, they're both. Well,
it's not.
This is what lockdown does. I can't get anybody else. So, Tessudo Maximus says good day from Australia. Got my wife playing a few games. Kings of War Hill says a pike and shot during lockdown. Got my ass kicked for the first 3 games. Nice one. Daniel Engel, good afternoon to you, mate. He says he's making birthday dinner for my love while checking out the stream. What a gentleman, eh?
Be nice.
Don't say it. Lovin says, do it, burst into song. We've already got half a dance. We need to go the half a dance, that's as good as it gets. Ryan saying, yeah, Batman love letter's good. Jez Hunt, good evening to you, mate, as well. VJ, hello, good morning to you, sir. Monley says, have you tried the new Elder Scrolls Call to Arms? I haven't, mate. The reason I've never tried it is that basically Elder Scrolls is not like it's not a huge love of mine type thing. It's not like it's like a favourite video game that I had to play because of the title. And when I saw the original reviews and kind of gameplay online, it looked like there was just a lot of dice and like a lot of moving parts. And for me, that wasn't really my kind of thing. Three Spiders Gaming Josh, good evening to you, mate. Nice to see you. VJ says, look, it's Lubac. She's got a taste for it. She definitely hasn't.
You missed the first comments, I think.
Henrik says, are you going to try my challenge? Play a new game with only non-English rules. Would love to see you struggle. I tell you what, mate, I struggle to read the English rules sometimes. BlackJack Legacy coming soon. Warwick says, Warhammer Underworld is a good first-timer game. Moving via hexes and cards, but don't play into the deck building aspect. We'll touch on some games, mate, later. Marcus is saying there as well, I think you had another idea for your what would we like to see. There's a few of your videos getting out of your comfort zone and trying different stuff like terrain builds. I'm sure you probably wouldn't want to see me struggling, that's for sure. That's not entertaining. It might be for 5 minutes. Molly says, look forward to the Rat King for Vanguard. I am, mate, actually, yeah. I really like those models. It's nice the new sculpts that's coming for that. Jason says, Rangers of Shadow is a great co-op game. He plays with Hazel as playing a bit of Dungeon Saga. And Arnold as well. Just come up there, he says he just claimed his spot back. Thank you very much, mate. And Vigi says, only thing I can get the missus to play so far is Hogwarts Battle, and she really likes that. So thinking deck builders with a theme might be a winner. It might just be Harry Potter, mate. You might just have to find every Harry Potter game. You might. That would be the thing. Joachim is saying, good evening, folks. Love the topic, but I'm dead tired, so got to sleep. Must say, I love playing board games with my wife. We play Azul and Isle of Cats most every day at night, folks. Thank you very much, Joachim. Have a good sleep, mate. Have a good catch up as well. And yeah, we mentioned earlier on in the stream, I'm not going to really focus on board games so much tonight. I think there's plenty of people who know much more about board games than I do. We've obviously got board games that we like, and we'll talk about them as the night goes on. But I'm not going to be technically recommending board games for you. This is more about sort of games with miniatures. So, yeah, VJ is saying 99% Harry Potter that she likes about it for sure. And Phil Campbell, good evening. He says, glad to see you got the brains of the operation with you. Yes, somebody does, don't they? So, the first one, hello Marco as well. The first thing I kind of want to talk about really, it was, so before we get into like recommending stuff, and the reason I asked Lou to come onto the live stream tonight was, because Lou was saying, I don't really know much about the games, I don't feel very prepared, and I said, look,
I don't remember like
you don't always remember the names, you know whether you had a good time or not, kind of thing, but like you don't remember too much. I wanted to use this. No, I know what you mean. I wanted to use it though as an example. Is like you're not a typical kind of miniatures game or anything like that. You're not that interested in it. Certain games, if I suggest certain ones, you tend to say, yeah, that sounds like something I would try.
Yeah, but I would try most things.
No, I appreciate that, but I want to use your time now as somebody that basically. Like it wouldn't necessarily be your first choice.
Yeah.
Like like if there was something better to do, if we weren't locked down, we would not be having.
Painting.
Yes, even yeah. So Andy says she doesn't remember having a good time. There was that time in there. So I don't want you to kind of feel pressured. Like I'm not expecting you to be like, knowledgeable about games. That's the whole point. That's why I wanted to talk to you about it. So there'll be certain things that would be instant. If I said the game does this, where you would just go, oh no, I don't want to play that one. What are those kind of things that you think would just be an absolute turn off from day one? And I appreciate this might be personal to you, but they're just a few things like for complete beginners, whether it's be your older kids, whether it's your partner, whether it's a friend basically who you're trying to introduce to gaming. What are some of those things?
Length of the game.
I think that's a big one when it comes to kind of, because I think people who maybe don't play games, like I think they think all games are a bit like Warhammer, where you play like 3 hours.
I was going to say, if you sat us down and said it was going to take 2 to 3 hours, I'd be like, oh, I don't think I'll bother. Yeah. And sometimes they might take that long, but they'll take that long because we're enjoying it, so we'll play it for longer, or we'll play another game, but kind of up to an hour and a half, really, for me, no longer than that. So if the start to finish time, especially when we're learning the rules and all that, if it's going to go like 2 or 3 hours, it's probably not even going to get started. Yeah. And I would agree with that. We've played loads of games that are maybe 15 minutes, 30-minute games, but we'll play them 3 or 4 times. We'll still sit for 3 hours. We'll still sit and play for 3 hours, but the idea of playing one game where especially if you spend half that time learning it, and you've checked out as well, you've kind of like mentally you're not invested in it. I just want to get this finished so I can go to bed, kind of thing. Yeah. So length of the game is really important, and I think length and complexity of rules. So if it was going to be a 2-hour game and it was going to take me an hour and a half to learn the rules and only play for 30 minutes, that would put me off. And I know you disagree with me when I say this, because you say I've played games I enjoy when this happens, but when the rules constantly change throughout the game, I find that really complicated. So you get another card and someone's skills change, or I find that just just too complicated. Too much to track. Yeah, because I kind of want to do it for enjoyment. I don't want to have to think too much about it. I think all day. Yeah, I don't want to have to think all night. Use of a tape measure. is always a big one.
It's funny, yeah. It's an instant put off to you, isn't it? Really, like the idea of having to like kind of like measure things and stuff.
If there's a little measuring tool in the game, it doesn't feel as bad. But when I see you get a tape measure out, I just think, oh, I can't play that.
It's funny because I've tried to kind of like sort of psychoanalyze this and trying to understand why the tape measure is such a big put off, but like a measuring stick's not, right? And I think it's because it gives the impression that there is lots of variability in movement and kind of in measuring, and I think people just like, it's an instant, how can I put it? It's just like, oh god, like I'm gonna have to kind of like get this tape measure and measure it across the board and like.
You know, really, I don't know how I can even say this in front of all of the people that are watching, but it's like it just gives me like a memory of, oh, not a memory, like an image.
I don't know where this is going.
Of like just a group of people playing games, everyone with a tape measure out, like wandering around, like measuring different things.
Okay.
Like
that wasn't where I thought I wasn't
going to do anything rude.
Oh, God, it's getting warm, and I think the radiator's on again.
No,
I know. I think so. You're thinking like if you've went to a game store and you've seen people like every day, like just like surrounded, and the sound of the tape measures keep clacking away, and like I know what you mean. I know what you mean. Next one.
I've got a couple more. Size of the board. And I know I've played some games that I like Armada. I quite enjoyed that, and that's quite on. But if you told me I was going to play on a 6x4 table, I'd be like, oh god.
I think that just proves as well.
Unless it was Twister.
I think what you're saying there as well also proves that just because these are all the things that you. I'm not even reading the comments. We'll get back to that one at some point. I think if we get to the point where, and I'm not talking about the comments here. I think what will like where some of these reasons that you're giving, there'll always be an exception that breaks that rule. So, for example, you'd much rather play something on a relatively small board that we could play like on a kitchen table, as opposed to having to come up here or get the folding tables out and like taking up the living room type thing. Yeah. I completely know what you mean. And
then probably only the other one is like I wouldn't never do this because you would get it already before we played, but I would hate to have to build.
The setup time.
I'd hate to have to build minis, and like painting doesn't fill me with any joy, although I would try it, but it doesn't fill me with any. I don't have any interest in it, and I much prefer. It's not a deal breaker in playing, but I much prefer co-op game to a.
Yeah, and I get that because with a co-op game, you're playing it together, so it's not a case of like, well, I've played this loads of times, so I'm
it's just more fun, I think, because it's more conversation and
I agree.
Like, for me, part of the enjoyment of playing a game is actually spending some time together, rather than just sitting watching the telly and ignoring each other. Do you know what I mean?
Sorry, I interrupted you there. I think what's interesting is all the reasons you give are all the reasons that we have as well for choosing the games that we choose. Some people want to play Warhammer 40k and they want to play Age of Sigmar on a big 6x4 table, or slightly smaller now with 40k. And some people say, no, I want to play something small, like on a coffee table type size thing. I want to play a game with.
Sorry, I just keep seeing these comments.
Don't read the comments.
Need to block over them.
Let me move my little bit of paper. I want to play a game with like 10 minis rather than a game with like 200 minis.
Yeah, that would be like for me as well. I've never been introduced to anything like that.
No, I know.
But if that was put in front of us again, I think I'd just have to deal it.
Right, so with that in mind then, before I start talking about the 5 games I'd kind of maybe recommend as starting point, I'm going to read some of these comments now.
You might not want to read.
I might not want to read some. Phil Campbell is just saying there as well, have you tried painting minis, Lou?
I haven't.
We did talk about it on the last stream.
It doesn't really excite me or interest me, to be honest. It's not something.
Sorry, go on.
Go on.
I was going to say, like, you're not necessarily kind of like, how can I put this? Your hobbies are not like creative.
I'm not a creative person, apart from if I was going to decorate a bedroom, decorate a room. Yeah. I'm quite good at that, but I'm not. I would. And
You'd rather read a book. You'd rather kind of exercise, like fitness and stuff like that.
Yeah,
or just get
telly.
Get out and watch. Yeah, watch.
Or get out. I mean, I'd rather be out of the house, but obviously that's a bit more challenging. But I'd rather be doing something outside and not being stuck inside.
And that's fine. Everyone's got different hobbies.
Yeah, cool.
Christian, sharing the link there.
But we have said that I would do that.
Yeah,
we've got off topic.
No, but I think it would be nice to do that just to see, as somebody that's never done it before, just to see what it's like. Christian sharing the link there for the Patreon as well. Thank you very much, Christian. Anybody that does join the Patreon, much appreciated. And Marcus is saying, don't forget to drop a like. Hello, Andrew Fairbanks. Thanks for joining us, mate. VJ's cracking with his Chaos team. Arnold says, Warcry is a great starter game. Do you know what it is? I think if you are invested in wanting to play miniatures games, I think Warcry is probably one of the best, if not the best, introduction to miniatures games. But if you're kind of still on the fence, I still think it might be a little bit of a step too far. Purely just because...
Try and sell it to me. How would you sell it to me?
We were talking about this a little while ago, and you were saying you wanted to try and kind of like you would try playing like a miniatures game type thing, and Warcry is potentially the one I would start with you. But because we've played a lot of these other things as well, and I think you kind of know what to expect. I think basically if this will become more clear when I go through the list of 5 games, but I think if you start with a board with loads of terrain on it, and some of your people are starting over here and some of your people are starting over there, and all of your models have all got different stats.
Oh yeah.
I think potentially that might be a bit of a step too far for your first intro. But if you've played like some of these maybe and you want to take the next step into a more mainstream miniatures game or war game, I think it's definitely a great start. Arnold's found the caps. Mark is saying he's working on his costume Casket of Souls build and adding minis to it. Nice, mate. Mark says his wife's not a gamer. Only game she enjoys are Azul, Detective, Quacks of Quinlanburg, and Hive. Some good games in there though, mate. To be fair, Three Spires game, and Josh says he plays Warcry and Gautier with his wife. And he says the use of a tape measure is always a big one. Obviously, mate. Paul says, just say it. Gives you the image of crusty old grognards. That wasn't the image I thought you was going to say, mate. I thought you was. It's probably because there's something else. Lobbins, I thought it gave you the image of DIYers. Yeah, something like that, mate. Andrew Fairbanks says, going from tape measure jokes to talking about the size of the board. Classy. Thank you. Kath says, blow off the dust of another box with a pile of shame. Nice one, Kath. Cracking through them, eh? Monique says, I imagine one screaming, we got a 2-incher over. That's kind of more along the lines of where I thought it was going. Mark says, I think people who are intimidated by a tape measure is because if they are not good at eyeballing distances, they are going to have a harder time. I think some games where you get things like random charges or you've got to measure, or where you can't pre-measure, I would agree, but generally most games these days you can measure at any point, so maybe not so much. Evelyn Krabby, how are you, mate? Simon saying, Warcry is an amazing game for beginners, and my partner Emma has just finished building her second army Sylvaneth and can't wait to get to the table. A nice one. That comment about smelling fish because Krabby's arrived.
Happen every time.
No, it's just because Krabby's here.
No, I know. I just wondered if someone said every time.
Ed Hanley, good evening to you, mate. Vijay saying, co-op games with your partner more fun. Where else we have to? And he says, cast pile of shame, my odds. Simon says, co-op games are great for newcomers as long as you don't have a quarterback at the table telling you what to do. Yeah, I'd agree that, and it's something I want to touch on later on as well, is that you do have to be very careful to not basically take over the game because you've played it 100 times before and you know the most optimal rule. I think one game that we play, like Pandemic, I think is a perfect example of a game where we've played it quite a lot together, and we kind of
we've
know.
Learned it together though as well.
Yeah, but we've learned
at the same level.
However, if you sat and played with somebody that's never played before, it would be quite easy to go, I don't want to do that. Like you want to do this kind of thing.
Totally.
Tony says, innocently shouting, has anybody seen my 10-inch widget? At a Guild Ball tournament, reduced the room to fits of laughter. Give me a tape measure any day. Ed says he's got people to play a Legion because it's a war game that doesn't use tape measures. And because it's Star Wars, that's a great one. It uses kind of like a measuring stick, basically, where the models always move this amount of space type thing. Bit of chat there as well. Warwick had a friend whose wife's real name was Barbie. She was interested in 40k, so he made and painted her a 1500 point pink army with green stuff for leader to be Barbie. Best of ever. Tizzy Braintree says, wow, getting lots of subs tonight. I've not even seen any ping up on the screen yet, but to be fair, I'm not looking at it. I'm just getting lots of subs at the minute. I'm going through a bit of a purple patch. I'll enjoy it while it lasts, because eventually it'll all quieten down and we'll go back to where we were. So, James said, I was playing Warcry with a measuring stick and my mate said, I wish I had 2 more inches. And his wife just poked her head in the room silently and left again. A nice one. Ed says, I'd argue Underworld is a better intro than Warcry. Funkiverse, great starter. Funkiverse, I wouldn't disagree with me. I think it breaks down a lot of barriers, but again, it's more board game, and I'm trying to kind of focus on what we would technically probably call miniatures games, or more of a miniatures board game crossover, I think. Simon saying Zombicide's a great game. Yep. Carla, good evening. Says, it's wife. Carla's wife. Good evening, Carla's wife. So I'm the one in the relationship that researches and buys the games we play, although my husband is an avid gamer. Just wanted to chime in and say sometimes the gamer is the wife. I completely agree, and that's why I've been kind of suggesting it's the partner. I'm not this is not definitely, whilst it's a male-dominated hobby, it's not always the case, yes. Hexy Beast, good evening. She's had a hard time convincing my wife to play anything that's not Harry Potter. She did finish Eon's End Legacy, though. I've not heard of that game. Right, up to there. Memoir 44. Tim D6, good evening, mate. Says, great job on the channel, always great content. Thank you very much, Tim. Very kind of you. Hello to Dan Robinson as well. Says, Star Wars Legion Skirmish Battle. Again, I tell you what we'll do. We're going to come on to the 5 games I was going to talk about. So let me go to this screen, and then I can clip this bit out for tomorrow's BlackJack clips video as well. Oh, and I'm also just going to get a little bit of trap wind there before I start.
I was going to say, I'll do that.
Yes. Okay. So the games I'm going to talk about now are basically 5 games that I think are perfect to play with maybe a non-gaming partner, be that family or be that kind of wife or husband or non-gaming friend during lockdown. So somebody that's never really kind of played games. So I'm not even just talking about like a beginner in miniatures games. I'm talking about somebody that probably doesn't really play board games either. And the first one of those games, if I can get my little thing, is Warhammer Underworlds. And I've got the Diachasm one here because Diachasm is the latest season for that. Diachasm is £50 in the UK if you buy it at retail price. There's obviously discounts available online. But I think that this is a good starter point. And some people will disagree because this game is quite competitive. It's quite there's a big tournament scene for this. However, don't treat it like a tournament game. Don't treat it like a big kind of like sort of heavily competitive game. Treat it like a game in a box. If you just buy, you all right there? Yeah, oh, you're laughing at the comments.
You need to hide them.
That's all right. If you just buy, be it Diachasm, be it Beastgrave, be it a second-hand copy of Shadespire or something, if you just buy that and play it out of the box, it's actually a good game. And especially with the later releases now, since Beastgrave, the warbands that you can play, so you play like roughly about 3 to 5 models. Each model has its cards that basically tells you what you need to roll on the card, and it's on a small board with hexes on that you move around.
Have we played that before?
We've not played it actually, no. And I think if you ignore the deck building aspect, like basically when you play it more competitively, you can get all the different cards from the different games, from the different sets, and mix them together to make a powerful deck.
Right.
If you ignore that and just play the cards that come in the box with the miniatures that come in the box, I think it's a great way to introduce a new person to a more miniatures-based kind of game. The miniatures don't come pre-built, but they are push-fit. They're very easy to kind of clip out and put together. And one thing I forgot to mention at the start is that I think that the games on this list, they need to be quick to put together and to set up. You don't want any of this kind of like, I've just bought this box set and now it's going to take me 3 weeks to clip everything out and glue everything together and build it up. If you basically agreed with your partner or your family member, if you've got them interested and you order this new game, you want to be able to play it when it arrives. You don't want to be like, oh, dead excited, it's come. Should we have a game tonight? Oh, well, it's going to take me a fortnight to build it. So all of the things on this list are relatively quick to get to the table. So as the first point, I think Diachasm or any of the Warhammer Underworlds kind of starter boxes, if you're picking anything up second hand or kind of in the sale or anything like that, I think they're a great place to start. Right, next one is X-Wing 2.0. Now, X-Wing's in its second edition now. The rules have been tidied up a little bit, so it's been around for a long time, but it's in its second edition. And again, this is not on a big playing space. It doesn't take up too much space to play. There's no tape measures. So basically what you do is, the starter box I think comes with 3 ships. So one person plays as X-Wing. They've got 1 ship. The other person plays as 2 TIE fighters. And essentially you get these little dials where you turn them around and you choose what you want to do in your next move, and then you flip them dials upside down, and your opponent doesn't know what you're going to do.
Okay.
Then when it's your turn to go, you flip your dial over, and then you have to move that direction. So there's not too much of this. I've got like lots of different options of what I want to do. All the information for that particular ship's in front of you, and if you're playing the two TIE fighters, they both do the same thing. You can upgrade the game when you're buying extra bits and pieces down the line, but just to kind of start, I think the starter box is fantastic. When I first played it with one of my little boys, they were little now. They're 18 now. They were little then. We sat and played it on a hotel carpet. We bought it at a convention. We played it on the hotel carpet, and we instantly the next day went and bought more stuff for it. The models are pre-built. There's nothing to build. They're pre-painted, so they look great. And I think with like renewed interest in Star Wars through things like The Mandalorian, I think that maybe the theme might be enough to kind of get it across the line. I know you're not a big Star Wars fan. That's why we've never played it. But I think it's a consideration if your other half gaming partner is interested in Star Wars.
It feels more interesting to me than some goblins.
I'll tell you what, I would liken it very much to Armada in that way. In that way of kind of you've got so many choices of movement.
I enjoyed that.
Yeah. Okay. So the next one is a game we have played, and that is Dreadball by Mantic. Now, there's a reason I've picked Dreadball when there's other games like Blitzball and Blood Bowl available as well. Excuse me. Blitzball is a great game, but it's not the easiest to get a hold of outside of the US. You can get it, but you've got to import it in, and it takes a long time to get here and stuff like that. So it's not the kind of thing where you make a snap decision. Should we ever go at this? No. Like, yes, we will. And then it takes you sort of like 3 months to get it there.
Yeah.
Dreadball is a really, really good sort of sports sort of replica game. If you think of it as like science fiction American football type thing. We've played it. It's basically on a board with hexes. You don't have to score in the end zones. There's the little kind of the score zones, the strike zones that you have to score in. You don't reset the board every time you score as well. So once you score, all the players stay where they are, and the ball comes in from the side again, and you just keep moving. And the game is played like on a tug of war mechanic. So if you score 5 points and I score 3, you're basically winning 2-0 to like 2, if you like. And the idea is to basically either end the game with more points or to get all the way up the track and end the game. The stuff that comes in the box is everything you need. The miniatures, a single piece plastic in the box. If you're getting in and buying other bits of teams and stuff, some of them will be kind of like multi-part kits. But the stuff in the box is all single piece plastic. The board's good quality. It comes with all the dice that you need. And it's not too difficult to play, is it?
Yeah, it's good. I really
played
enjoyed
it a few times.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that one.
Yeah. So, Dreadball by Mantic is another one. Simple. The next one is another game by Mantic, and it's Walking Dead. Now, this one is probably a little bit more, I wouldn't say difficult, but it's more like a miniatures game with measuring sticks and free movement around, and all of the models come pre-built, so they're all like plastic in the starter set. It comes with all of the measuring sticks and like bits of like kind of gaming widgets that you need and all of the tokens. Each character has its stats on a nice big card with big text, so you have it in front of you. You don't need to play with a lot of miniatures per side. But I think the thing that whilst that might make it a bit more difficult than the other games on the list, you can play it co-op as well, and you can play it solo. So to be able to play it together and to kind of coach each other through it, to be able to play the game, I think that's what gets this one on the list. Ordinarily, I think sort of true miniature war games where you kind of like lining armies against each other are sometimes a bit of a big first step. This one, because you can play it co-op, I think you can ease people into it. And this has always been on my list when I've talked about new games for beginners or sort of like sort of best solo games as well. It always keeps coming up, and it always will. I've got a kind of a good soft spot for this game. And the last one on the list, and again another game that we have played, is God Tier by Steamforged. I did a review of it last year. You can see that on the channel. I'll put a link here if I remember when I'm editing this back tomorrow. And I said it was quite possibly going to be my game of 2020. The starter boxes are a really good price. They're listed at £40 or £39.99p. You can get some good discounts online for these. And the starter box comes with everything that you need to play for 2 players with 1 champion each. The game does scale to a full size where you can play with 3 champions each. But I think for just introducing somebody new to it as a complete beginner, playing 1 champion versus 1 champion will let you know whether it's the game you want to kind of expand and want to buy more for. The board's hex based, so there's none of this kind of measuring for movement and stuff. The cards for the champions are right in front of you, and there's 2 sides to it as well. So in one part of the game, you use the front of the card. In the next part of the game, you flip it over and use the other part. Mm-hmm. So you're not like bombarded with lots of options all at the same time. And I think with the fact that it comes single piece plastic minis, you can literally open up the box, put it on the table. It takes no time to set up. There's no terrain or anything like that. You punch the tokens out and get ready to play it. I think it's a fantastic game to give that idea of is this something that I want to kind of take to the next level type thing. So those are 5 games that I think would be really, really useful for beginners. We just I don't know whether you've got any kind of opinions on any of the ones. Is there any that I've talked about that we haven't played where you think, no, not for me? Or
no, I mean, I would try them all. I would. I mean, none of them sound
none of them put
awful.
You off. Yeah, I think if I'd said
you haven't told me how long they all play, that would be a factor
good point.
Potentially.
Then all of them are not like 3-hour games.
So yeah, I would play. I would try them.
I think the kind of if I was to say let's have a game of Warhammer 40k and I put down like 1,000 points of Marines and I put down 1,000 point of Necrons,
and crumbling already.
And then I'm putting terrain all over the board, and then I pull out this massive big really thick rule book and go right, that's the rules, and then there's your army list, and there's your army book. I think that would be the kind of thing that would just kill it stone dead.
Yeah.
And that's why I've kind of gone for those 5 games. In the comments, this is meant for the video, the recorded part, not this live bit. But in the comments, if you can think of any other games that you'd suggest, if you agree or disagree with me, please put them down in the comments. I would love to know what you think. So, folks, let me go back here. Turn the recording button off. Whew, I've rambled there, didn't I?
You went on
I could feel myself running out of breath. Right, let's have a quick look and see what people have been saying.
About
Phil saying Strange Eons is a great game. Play it on a 3x2 board, generally 6 to 9 minis and a few bits of terrain. Nice one, mate. Simon says, he's having a chat with Marcus there. Greg Cherry says, I got my girlfriend started with Relic Blade. It was a perfect introduction, but co-op Dungeon Crawler is by far her favourite. I can see that why that would be, mate. Hello, Greg, by the way. Bobby Clark, good evening to you, mate. He says, my girlfriend showed more interest in the hobby after realising she was able to paint a model well. After just a little guidance, she soon branched into Warcry, went even better with alcohol. Bobby is an absolutely fantastic painter, though, that to be fair. So I can imagine, mate, she had a good teacher as well. Ryan says, looking at my better half likes Cthulhu games, so we're usually good. If there's a kind of like a theme, which kind of is...
What's that? Cthulhu?
So Cthulhu is sort of like... How can I put it? Like psychological horror, like sort of... doom and gloom. It never ends well. Like they're sort of fish people.
I probably prefer that.
You probably would actually. We've just started watching True Detective, haven't we? Which has kind of got that kind of like almost what's the word for? Like not demonic, but like spooky.
It's kind of a religious.
Yes, yeah. So
I'm trying to think of the words.
Witchcraft type thing. Yeah. That's what I'm trying to think of. I think. Christian shared a link as well for the BlackJack merch store. Thank you very much, mate. Mark says, I love how serious Andy is when he starts the recording part of the video.
True.
I know. Do you know what it is? I don't know why I do it. I think it feels like I'm kind of doing a completely different video, and I don't know why. It's and I also think it's because I know I'm going to keep talking. I'm not going to stop to read comments. So my brain is processing, because I write some notes down, but it's hardly a script or anything. And I think it's my brain processing, like when you do a presentation. I think it's just the way my brain's processing. What am I going to talk about next? Don't forget this bit. Hexy B says, I love Underworlds. I just wish it had solo player. Yeah, it would be nice if it did, mate. I'm surprised we've never seen... I might have missed this, but I certainly haven't seen anything like community-based. I'm surprised we haven't seen that. It says called it. And yeah, when you said it, mate, I thought, I'm going to have to start talking about it. Mark says, let's see if we can make Lou laugh.
You did.
Is that what it was? Andrew says, my tape measure takes shrinkage into account. Tim says, I definitely have a non-gamer girlfriend, so looking forward to finding some of your suggestions. I think some of them will not necessarily be kind of like surprises and stuff, but I think the reasons behind why I've selected these might be a bit more about the consideration. So it takes into account a lot of the reasons that you said. It takes into account time to get it to the table. So like I said before, there's a term called like the Christmas morning test, where essentially when a kid gets a new toy and you want to play with it straight away.
It's like attention span.
Games are exactly the same. If a game has that Christmas morning test of, like, I don't open it up and go, oh, right, so I need some dice and there's no dice in there. Let me go and see if we've got any dice. Yeah. And I need a tape measure. Oh, shit, where did I last have the tape measure? I was in the garage with it last time. Where's the tape? All those kind of stuff. If everything's in the box for you to just get in and play, and it doesn't even need to be the complete game. So like X-Wing as an example is much more fun with more ships. It gets more exciting.
Yeah.
But it's perfect to learn with what comes in the box. God Tier plays fantastic with 3 champions because you really start to get the synergies and the interactions between the different warband things. But it plays perfectly with just what's in the box in 1v1. So I find that kind of stuff. It's the same with Warhammer Underworlds. If you want to expand and go mega competitive and start kind of like your deck building type stuff, you can play it like a board game. Play what's in the box. Yeah. You'll have a good time. Hexy B says the D&D Adventure Series games are usually something I play with new gamers, or I go with short stuff like Sagrada. I've not played the D&D stuff, mate, I'll be honest. Mark Berraclaw says, evening, Mr. and Mrs. B. Hope you're both well. We're very well, thanks, Mark.
Very good.
Hexy B says, core space is a good option. I would disagree, mate, and I'll tell you why I'll disagree. It takes bloody ages to set it up. And I think if you set it up in advance, you might get away with it type thing. But there is, like, as much as the game looks beautiful with all the terrain set up, if you're a first-time gamer kind of getting your idea around measuring, like, I don't know if you can remember, Core Space is the one that's kind of sci-fi game. About 2 foot square, loads of cardboard terrain all slotted together. Looks like I did a review of it like a couple of years ago.
I won't remember
that. No, you probably wouldn't. I just think it could be quite intimidating for a first-time gamer. But it's a good game, and you can play it solo. And you can also play it co-op. So I think it might be like maybe the next step, if you like, after the intro stuff. Ad says Underworlds is like X-Wing. It can be hyper competitive, but also be pure beer and pretzels. That's the only way I've ever played those games, mate. To be fair, Mark says X-Wing, the game that got me back into the hobby. Yeah, I've got X-Wing minis. I won't turn around because I'll knock things flying, but they're all on the shelf behind me and stuff. The Slave One and the Millennium Falcon. Mark says your wife is really king pretending. Kind, pretending that she cares about X-Wing. No, she's not a fan of Star Wars in the slightest, mate. And that was why I said she's never played it. I would never even suggest it, because I said, do you want to play a Star Wars game? You just go.
But I think I would find it more interesting than like.
Yeah, actually, no, I agree. Actually, I think the mechanics of the game. I think like the way it works with the templates. So basically, there's like little cutouts in the front of the base. So you put the template down in the little cutout. And then you basically move it to the end as if it's flown round in an arc. So it's like dead simple to do. Koda says, played X-Wing with my wife already, yet second edition put us down and we never got the upgrade sets. What I would suggest is, and I must admit, going to second edition put me off a little bit. And this is more if you're a gamer that's got a big sort of collection of version 1 stuff. They released these upgrade packs to move to second edition. And they were quite expensive. Where you basically, if you've got like 2 ships from the Rebels, you had to buy a big upgrade pack that had all of the Rebel ships parts in it.
Right.
And they weren't cheap. I know I'm looking at you.
I know.
I'm really talking to you.
I know, he's just being
but I'm looking at
keep
you.
Me involved.
What I would suggest is, if you've never played it before, pick up version 2 starter box. If you already have version 1 stuff, just play version 1 rules. If you're not worried, the reason it went to version 2 was because it got hyper competitive. It all got a bit clunky because there were so many different moving parts. But if you're just playing with like kind of 5 or 6 ships that you own already, just play with that. Simon said, if you like X-Wing, you need to try Gaslands. Yeah, I've played Gaslands. It's like X-Wing but with Hot Wheels cars.
Oh right, okay.
Bit like Mad Max type thing.
Yeah.
Monley says Blood Bowl second season is really good. I'm not a huge fan of Blood Bowl, maybe, which is why I would never recommend it to anybody, but it doesn't mean it's a bad game. It's just not something I would never introduce you to it, for example.
You've got it, haven't you, somewhere?
I've got Blood Bowl. Yeah, there's a newer version just come out. Car Wars was good in its day. Yeah, that was a long time ago, mate. Dirk says, love Dreadball, but I would argue it's less of a war game than Funkiverse. I think because you've got the miniature building aspect, the painting aspect, the collecting aspect, and like different teams, I'd put it up there with things like Blood Bowl and stuff, which is why I see it more as a miniatures game. I wouldn't necessarily call it a war game, but it's more of a miniatures game than like Funkiverse. Funkiverse is those little pop vinyl things.
Oh yeah.
You can get board games now with those in. So I would still put it as more of a miniatures game. Nathan, good evening, Nathan. Says Matic are offering £10 off when you spend $50 until the end of January with code Christmas Ronnie. They are, mate. Yeah, they are. Peter says The Walking Dead looks good, plays as good as it looks. Yeah, I like it, mate. Here we go. It just jumped out and find out where I was again. Paul saying, to be honest, when you said what game would you use to get someone into gaming, I assumed that people would use a game they already play and have models for, so you can basically play right away. No, not necessarily, and I'll come on to the reason why not in some of my tips and things of things why I've got five things that I would say you need to take into consideration when playing with a non-gamer. And then you don't know what these are. You might see the comments, but you don't know my reasons behind them. You can tell me whether you think they're good or bad considerations. But I'll tell you why having something completely new might be a good idea. Hexy B says I'm always hit and miss with Steam Forge game stuff. I know what you mean, mate. I've got the entire collection of God Tier, and I absolutely love it. But I wouldn't suggest going and buying Dark Souls, for example. They make some good stuff. They make some stuff that doesn't gel with me. Tony saying +1 for Walking Dead. So easy to teach and learn. Is flexible and has a good pace. One of mine and the missus' favourite games. Yeah, I would agree with that as well, mate. George is saying evening boss and Andy. Bodyguard of Lies. What about Kill Team? Kill Team, whilst again is a great game, and I think it's a good entry point for kind of if you're interested in miniature gaming. I think the rules are too complicated for beginners. I think as soon as you start trying to, you put all the terrain down, there's all of the different kind of phases and stuff. I honestly, like, if I was going to choose one of the GW games, I would pick Warcry before I'd pick Kill Team. It's a good game, but it's not simple to get started if you've never played war games before. Mark says if 2020 had a theme, it would be Cthulhu. There you go. True Detective is somewhat based on Cthulhu mythos. I thought I'd read that, mate. That was why I kind of suggested, or Lovecraftian. So Lovecraft is the writer. H.P. Yes. Lovecraft, I think it is. He wrote all this kind of like weird stories within this kind of Cthulhu mythos. True Detective Series 1 is awesome. I've never seen it, mate. You've seen Series 1 and Series 2. I've never seen any of them, so we started last night to go back and watch Series 1. Brilliant. Yeah. Paranormal, mythical. Yeah, kind of like I thought I'd. Inza Nelson says, sorry about the Rams next year. There's always next year, mate, isn't there? There's always next year. Supernatural, yeah. Carla says, the King in Yellow features. Yes, it's a little Lovecraftian at heart. I hope that's not a spoiler. I do remember them saying about she's found a king. They talked about that in the first episode. Yeah. So that's probably where it's going. Martin says, Ninja All-Stars by Soda Pop Miniatures is a really good versus game. Starter box is about $100. Comes with 4 ninja basic clans. I don't disagree with you, mate, but I then see that really on the bridge of board game, personally, I think. Because and I think one of the things that distinguishes miniatures games from board games is almost the collectability. I think if you buy a board game, there might be expansions for it, but generally everything you need is in the box, and then you might buy an expansion that builds on the rules. I see a miniatures game or a miniatures war game as something where you buy a starter box, and then there's a multitude of other teams options or armies, or that's kind of how I would distinguish the two. That's my opinion. I'm not saying that's right for everybody, but I think that's where you kind of when does it become a collectible miniatures game, and when is it just a straight board game? Andrew says Cthulhu is basically the kinky Japanese stuff, but instead of sex, the victim goes insane. Yes. Phil saying Lovecraft Country is pretty good. I started watching that, but you didn't watch it with me, did you?
I don't think so.
No, you definitely didn't. No. That's how I know you didn't.
Oh, okay. You sometimes can't remember.
Yeah. Tony says Cthulhu, when run right, is very bleak, nihilistic, and dark game. Yes, great if you get a group with that kind of feel. We've played, not Mansions of Madness, House on the Hill.
Have we played that?
Me, you, Adam and Sam played it when we lived in the old house. Can you remember there was a point in the game where one of us had to leave the room while the other three...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. That's kind of Cthulhu-esque.
I can't remember.
Well, I think insanity is one of the measurements on the little hex things with the tokens around the outside. There you go.
I can't remember. But...
Which reminds me, it's on the shelf in the kitchen. I was
thinking
I haven't seen that box in a little while. Andrew says, felt like Ninja All-Stars needed a little rules tweak. Super Dungeon Explorer's pretty good game. Yeah, I think they were all kind of that soda pop. Was Simon, I think, was maybe the first Super Dungeon Explorer. Bobby Clark, I think Lord of the Rings game from GW would be good if they're a film book fan. Pretty easy to play, quick, and my girlfriend has Hobbit-like features and I love for afternoon tea. I struggled with Lord of the Rings. I tried to learn it from the book, and I had so many questions. I'm not even going to talk about a Hobbit feature. I had so many questions from the book that I just couldn't find answers for. That kind of put me off, but maybe that's just my inability to learn how to play a game. Kodas is saying, easy, fast to set up, everything in the box, models are ready to play. How about BattleTech? I can't comment on BattleTech, mate. Actually, I can. I've never played it. I don't know anything about it other than I've heard it takes ages to play. I know there's a shorter version of BattleTech which might fit this kind of stuff, but I personally don't have an interest in those kind of big mechs. It's up until recently been quite difficult, I think, to get in the UK, and I've just never played it. I don't know anything about it, mate. That's why I never mention BattleTech on any of these lists. Somebody always replies when I talk about intro games for like new gamers. Somebody always mentions BattleTech, and I just don't know
anything about it.
I don't know anything about it. Joyce saying might have got a raised eyebrow of might do from my wife when I said I wanted to play Dark Rituals. And which room does it take? See, it's board size, isn't it?
Yeah, totally is.
If I set up something that was like
this
sort of like touch up over the size of this table, you would just go, oh shit, I've already said yes.
I'd probably back out the room.
Lawman said, I think a follow-up video will be good. A continuation of the person has tried these and liked them. What would be the next set of games? I think the problem with that, mate, is it would have to be specific to the ones I've suggested. If you like these, otherwise I'm literally going, right, if you like this one, play this one. If you like this one, play... Like, it becomes like tree branches. Broad, it becomes quite a bit too broad, I think. Phil says Last Days by Ash Barker is a good zombie skirmish game. Yeah, I've got that book, mate, actually, but I'll be honest, I prefer Walking Dead, if I'm honest. Christian sharing the link there for Goblin Gaming. Do me a favour, folks, right? At some point after this stream, now, whenever, can you all click the link to Goblin Gaming? I'm not telling you to go and buy anything, but the reason I'm asking you to do this is basically about a week ago, it stopped recording the clicks. I wasn't getting any clicks at all. And it like over months, every day I at least get like kind of 5 or 10 clicks on it. It kind of bounces around a little bit. And then literally overnight it stopped. It stopped getting any clicks. And I emailed Goblin Gaming. They said it was working fine. And I said, it can't be. When I click on it, it's not even registering to the click. And then I sent them another email today. And then randomly, it seems to have started working again, as if they fixed something. But I've only had like a couple of clicks on it. So if you could click on it, just so I can see if it's working again. I'm not telling you to go and buy things. This is not me encouraging you to spend money. But if you can click it so I can see if the tracks are working, that would be awesome. World of Tanks, somebody just said there before it went off the top of my screen. Simon Tuckley, World of Tanks board game's good if Star Wars theme's putting them off. Yeah, so World of Tanks is basically tanks, but works with the same kind of templates as like Star Wars does. It used to just be called Tanks, but they've rebranded it. There's a video game called World of Tanks, and they've done a partnership with them now. Not very expensive to get into either as well. I think I put it originally on the first ever list I did of like 5 miniatures games for beginners. I think I put it on that list, to be fair.
You're lost.
Yeah, I was lost a bit there. Mark says love bird eyes. Not over a game of 40k, that's for sure. Andrew says 40k is not a good game. Newbies reading the Space Marine lore will be shell shocked the moment they start removing a lot of their dudes. I think the problem is, mate, again, I think this is another instance of people like us who are deeply embedded in this as a hobby, like having the ideas that other people will see them in the same way. I think if you've never played 40k but shown interest in it, I think you'll genuinely have a good game. There are a lot of people play the game, and I think the vast majority of people will either get into the game because they've read the lore and already understand, already like it, or like me, I don't really know much about the lore. It doesn't bother me if the lore doesn't exactly match up with the rules of the game, for example. It's nice if it did, but it's not. For me personally, I can kind of separate the two a little bit. So I think sometimes we overanalyze, and that'll come in with some of the tip things I'm talking about. It says, I found the move from version 1 to version 2 was far cheaper than moving from 3rd edition Fantasy Battle to 4th. I think the difference is, mate, is you were essentially just buying bits of cardboard. Like the things that you were getting in Star Wars X-Wing when they upgraded was just new cards, new dials, like new overlays for the ships. Like it wasn't anything to do with actual miniatures and stuff. Hexy B says, and Aeronautica in PBRs is pretty cool. I quite like the look of that, mate, to be fair. And I must admit, it's something I would like to try at some point, but I never have. It says, I was hardcore competitive at the time, had a minimum 100 points at every available ship. Yeah, I think anybody that was serious into Star Wars, mate, had to buy a lot, and I think it needed the upgrade. It ran its course, but there was never going to be a cheap way. If they basically said all your old ships don't work now, you can only buy new stuff, I think they would have been even worse. Ryan says, I have 2 of the 5 games you mentioned. Typically the 2 my half is least interested in. There you go, mate. Peter says, all right, evening everyone, just home. Mr. Burrs, how many rounds did you last? Yeah, just the one, mate. Kieran said, Kung Fu Panda board game, great for kids, significant others, all family games that's got us playing it together. Yeah, board games. Like I say, we could talk about all sorts of board games for getting kind of people started, but there are board game channels who know a lot more about board games than me. Let him crying. Yeah, I thought I did. Yeah, I thought I just heard the little boy crying there. Hexy B says you should try Mansions of Madness. I've been looking at Mansions of Madness, mate, because you can play it solo as well, actually. It's something I'd quite like to give a try to, actually. Ed says, I love Kill Team to Death, my favourite GW game. There's no way I'd use it as an intro game, though. I agree, mate. Like, I think it's a good game. I wouldn't use it as an intro game. Paul says, I would always go with a game that I know when it introduces new players to the hobby. I think a new player will be turned off if I spent ages reading the rules. You have to play like a teacher. I agree to an extent, mate. And I think learning the game before you play it together is never a bad thing. However, I think sometimes learning the game together and starting on an even keel can sometimes be better. And I'll come on to that when Lou comes back. I'll go through my list of 5 bits and pieces. And there's a reason why. I'm not saying I'm right, like, and that you're wrong kind of thing. It's just an opinion about a reason why I think that might not be the best always. And I think a lot of that depends upon the person teaching as well. Tizzy Brain Drain says, no, I think it's a good demarcation between board games and minis games. Yeah, I mean, the obvious thing is board games are on a board, and if there's a tape measure or measuring instrument involved, it tends to be a miniatures war game. That's how some people do them, but I like to think of them a little bit more like as if there's a collectible aspect to it. If you can buy and expand the game by buying more miniatures for the game, it's more likely to be a miniatures game. If you're buying extra rules, if you like, it's more like a board game expansion. Andrew says, I think Simon was associated with some Super Dungeon Explore early, but after they separated, Simon had Arcadia Quest. Ah, right. No interest in Big Macs. Big Mechs. Yeah, you're right. Marcus says, whoever suggests Battletech as a beginner game, get your act straight. You mean, man. Kieran says, after Panda were moved into Rangers of Shadow Deep skin using the miniatures in the board game. That would be a good upgrade, mate. Right, what I'm going to do is then... Oh, I've got a right itchy finger there. I'm going to go through... I don't know if I'm going to use this at all for another video, but I'm going to I'm going to record it anyway, and I'm going to not go into presenting mode, right? Because what I've got is, these are 5 tips that if you're going to try to introduce somebody who is completely new, never played kind of miniatures games before, you're going to introduce somebody new, these are 5 tips that I would suggest maybe taking into account. As I said before in the live stream earlier, doesn't mean I'm right and everybody else is wrong kind of thing. These are just my kind of thoughts. And you don't know what I'm going to talk about. No. So I'm going to kind of ask you after each one, what do you think kind of thing. So the first one is try something new to both of you. Now, Paul in the chat's just saying he would always suggest teaching a game that you know inside out, like be the teacher type thing. And I do agree with that. I think even if you are going to teach somebody new to play a game, even if it's a brand new game, you should have at least kind of read the rules and have a basic idea about how it works. Like, don't basically sit down together and go, right, let's read the rule book together, right? But I think if you buy a new game, a game that's new to both of you, then basically you're starting on a bit more of an even keel. And it's not a case of, well, I've played this for years, so I know it inside out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play this game. You're going to know nothing. And I know all these little secret tricks and moves and stuff. You almost want to find those out together. And that's why I would maybe suggest buying something that is new to both of you. Like, you've decided together, this is the game we're going to give a try to. And let's do it. And it was one of the reasons why the list I did earlier were kind of all £50 or less. None of those games were more than £50. What do you think of that?
I think it depends on how complicated the game is.
No, let's take complicated out of it a little bit, because the games I'm suggesting should be a little bit more simple.
So it's not other things that you've taught me to play.
No.
Okay. I agree. It's nice to learn it together. I think you kind of feel like you're in it together and you're on the same. Although, obviously, you've got much more general understanding of how a game would run, so you tend to pick up the rules easier than I would. Yeah. But that's kind of
but if it was a game I knew inside out,
will you end up playing the game for both of us?
Yeah.
Or not necessarily trying to, but you kind of, can I tell you something? And you're not always right.
No, I agree.
So,
getting on to that one. So the next one, the second tip I've got is to don't try and kind of metagame it. So metagaming is kind of like, is the game behind the game. So when you're thinking of, like, if you're building a list for like an army type thing, like, there's no point in me kind of going deep into, well, these are all the best combinations, and I should do this, and if this works with this, and actually like almost trying to get good at the game before we've even played it. And it kind of comes back to the first one. One of the reasons why I said to try something new together, because I think it's sometimes in our nature, like, even if you just play casually, you still kind of want to try your best. Nobody goes into a game thinking, I'm just going to basically waste my time and like just kind of. And also, I don't think you'd enjoy it if I was basically just holding back all the time. Like if I knew all these secret tricks and I'm just kind of like doing the basics, I think that might.
Yeah, I also wouldn't want you to use secret tricks you didn't tell me about.
No, and that happens, doesn't it? Because you forget about them, don't you? You start to know them. But I think like kind of one thing you certainly shouldn't do is basically bring your A game. If you do know the game inside out, don't bring like your kind of like your best game and go. And just like watch your partner do a few moves and then absolutely smash them off the table kind of thing. That's not a way to get somebody interested in the game. The third one is kind of, and I'm guilty of this one, I know, is let them make their own decisions. Even if they're not the most optimal decisions, even if you can think of a better way, even if you think, and I've done this when we've played, is like, it'll show the game off or it'll let me explain a different rule. Just let them make their decisions. If they feel that you are basically telling them what to do all the time, you might as well play on your own.
Yeah, you may as well play two-parted. And I think that partly comes back to your first point of trying something new together, because you're less likely to do it if you're partially learning it yourself.
Yeah. The fourth one, and it comes back, we just recently touched on there in the live stream about like Warhammer 40k lore and stuff. Do not go overboard on the rules and the background to the game. I know if I said, right, I've got this game, it takes about 30 minutes to play, blah blah, and basically what the story is there's these two wizards and they're fighting, and they're like, as soon as I kind of like try and put too much,
you get this stuff.
If I'm trying to sell the theme too much, I've already lost you kind of thing. So you might be mega interested in the background and the lore and the stories and the fantastic like rules behind it, but essentially what you think of it like you're demoing a game at a convention type thing. You've got a limited amount of time to kind of to get the basics across and to see if somebody is interested in it.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. I think. I mean, some people may be more interested in that than others as well.
I think
it depends on who you are, doesn't it, and what you're interested in. But for me, it would lose me. You need to know the premise of the game, and you need to know what you can and can't do. But I don't need to know if there's like a whole book about what the background story is of all the characters. Do you know what I mean? But other people might find that interesting.
I was just going to say as well, like I said at the start of this, it doesn't mean I'm right and everybody else is wrong kind of thing. You know the person that you're going to be playing against, and you might want to approach it in a completely different way. But I know from experience, when I've taught other people to play games, there's generally a thought that I can see that kind of glazing over if I start to wax lyrical about how interesting the background is.
You know when it's happening.
Yeah. And the last one, and I don't think anybody's going to disagree with this one, is have fun and have a laugh. That's why we're playing the game. This is what the aim of the game is. It's to basically to spend some time together. That is something different to what you normally do, is to have fun and have enjoyment. And at the end of the day, it's not about winning, it's not about losing, it's about the two of you having a fun couple of hours playing a game kind of thing, or whatever it is. And I don't think anybody's really going to disagree with that one.
It's got to be the main point of what you're doing in the first place, doesn't it? And as long as it's not overly complicated, I think it makes that even easier to do, because there's a bit of probably banter along the way, which I think is important.
I mean, like I said, it's the reason that you play games is to have fun. It should never feel like you're having a test. Like it's not a quiz kind of thing. Like, even though quizzes can be enjoyable, but it's not like you're sitting a test.
Not after lockdown.
I'll rephrase it. You're not. It's not like you're sitting an exam. That's what I should say. It shouldn't be a case of how much of this that I've just told you can you remember to play the game kind of thing. It's just about having fun. So again, let me know what you think in the comments. Right. Go back to my main screen now. Right, let's have a look and see what these see what I've got.
Loads of people have clicked your Goblin Gaming link.
Clickety click. I'm not even going to check it yet. I'll check it on my phone and then I'll know if it's working. Okay, so we'll be able to see here. If I click on here and then I need to find it now. Yeah,
it's working.
Yeah, it's working now. I would show you the graph, but I don't know if I can. So that's what's happened on the graph, folks. If I can get this focus on there.
Focus, no, it's too shiny.
No, it's too shiny.
Basically fell off a cliff, didn't it?
It basically fell off a cliff for a week. Nothing happened. So it's back. Thank you very much. Phil says we all go on after the stream and say Andy says we can have £20 of free stuff. Dice Hand, good evening, mate. It says I recommend Arkham Horror, Marvel Champions as board games from Star Wars Rebellion, Imperial Assault, as tabletop Warcry or Marvel Crisis Protocol. If that doesn't work, switch your girlfriend. I'll tell you, actually talking about that, one thing I was going to mention I completely forgot about was this is not about trying to convince somebody to play games, to take part in your hobby. The person that you're trying to find a common ground game with should be interested to start with.
Should want to.
I see a lot of comments online. How do I convince my wife to play Warcry? Or how do I convince my wife to play board games? It's not about convincing anybody. It's about finding a common ground and then finding the right game for somebody that is showing an interest.
But you're more likely to get them to the more complicated games if you start off easy and.
Oh, without a doubt. And one thing is, I mean, even something. Like, think about it the other way around. What's your partner's or if it's your kids or your friend or your wife or your husband or whatever, your boyfriend, girlfriend, what's their hobbies? Would you want to do their hobbies? How do you feel about that? Because actually put yourself in the other position. If you say, like, my wife, I was going to be really generic there. My husband, let's say, my husband sits and knits, right? Like, would you want to do what they do, kind of thing? Because if you don't, then at least appreciate that, like see it from the other side as well. Let me move that bit of paper there. Christian sharing the link there for Amazon as well. Thank you very much, mate. Yeah, if you're buying anything on Amazon and you click through the link, you pay the same, and I make a small commission for you sending it. If anybody wants to get a free trial of either Amazon Prime or you want a free trial of Audible, if you click it through that link as well, you don't pay anything for that free trial. You can cancel it straight away, but I do make a small commission from that as well. So if anybody's thinking about giving those things a try, please you'd be helping me out. You're helping my business out if you remember to click through those links. Marcus says, Kill Team is an intro game when you enjoy playing solo more than with your better half. Yeah, I'd agree, mate. Thank you. Tony says, if I were to break my no mini or games buying this year, it would definitely be for Mansions of Madness. I need to know more about it, but I did see you can play it with an app, which allows you to play it solo. I think basically the app controls it tells you what the bad guys do. Okay. I think that's how it works. John Estel says, isn't the way to tell if it's a miniatures game if you make it on the boss of the company used to work with GW? Normally, mate, yeah. Jack, good evening, mate. He says, Space Marine adventure game is very easy to play. Also can solo and very easy to house rule stuff to make things harder. You get minis to paint and later could buy neck runs. Yeah, I should clarify that if I haven't recommended it, it's not because I think it's bad. It's generally because I haven't played it. So there are some games I haven't recommended because I've played them and I don't think they're good as beginner games. There are some games I haven't recommended, like BattleTech, for example, that I've never played, so I haven't got an opinion on them. Mark says, I think the upcoming Street Fighter board game can be a superb intro. I'm not sure if it's getting sold, mate, or was it Kickstarter only. I'm not sure if it was going to retail or not. Mark says, 5 tricks to confirm your friends and partners that you're even nerdier than they originally thought. Yes. Simon says, playing a round or two together and explaining your moves and reasons. Yeah, I think certainly your first game should never ever be competitive. It should be a case of this is why I'm doing this. These are the cards I've got. Yeah. This is why I'm playing this card. There should be kind of explanation and stuff.
That's how we normally do it, don't we?
Paul says, for me, I would still start with a game I know. If they enjoy playing it, I would suggest starting a totally new game together. Yeah, I don't disagree with that, mate. I just think the games I enjoy playing that I have lots of stuff for generally are probably a step on from the entry point for you. Yeah. So for me to introduce you to something, I'd be better off taking a step back. Yeah. I mean, I do have some of the games in the list. Yeah, I do have those. But, yeah. Marcus says, metagaming is like Lou taking Andy for a run and forgot to mention it'll be uphill. And it'll be 10 miles. And she's twice as fast as me, yeah. Andrew says, got a tip, if you need to build a list, it's not a good intro game. But if it's balanced out of the box, it's a better game. I wouldn't always agree with that.
I would agree with that for me.
No, I'll tell you why I wouldn't always agree, because not all games where you can build lists do you need to build lists. So for example, things like The Walking Dead, for example, you can build a list and you can try and make a really powerful little force, or you can just play what you saw on the TV series and I just want them 3 together because they go together in the story. Yeah. So it doesn't make it a bad intro game because you can list build. If you have to list build,
it's different. Yeah.
I completely agree. Josh saying, for sure, my wife has said that the same thing, where a game I know is more intimidating than starting a new game together.
I agree with that.
Yeah. Lord Maiden says, sorry, but I think I worded it wrong, and Lou just helped with the wording. I meant games you may like if you have a small amount of general knowledge of games, not if you like this players. Okay, right. Sorry, mate. I think I know what you mean now. Josh Swan, good evening, mate. How are you? Peter Cummins says, so try something new together. Is actually you just trying to say, I'll buy something new so we can try it together. What can I say, mate? Where was that one? Just disappeared. Palmsy saying, for me, the main thing is you need to teach without coming across like a teacher. That's not fun. Yeah, I'd agree, mate. And it's one of the reasons why I think co-op games are by far the better entry point. But if the co-op game isn't what you want, then I think the other ones on the list and stuff. I think just it's being approachable, isn't it? It's being able to get in and play it quickly without having to have before we start, I need to give you these 25 minutes of rules.
Oh yeah, I mean that's the biggest cut off for me.
The kind of game where you can go, right, what do you want to do? Just let's just start. What do you want to do? Yeah. Well, I want to walk over there and I want to shoot that guy.
And then you kind of learn it together as you go. That's much more interesting or more fun anyway.
Mortis is really great point. Tony says, I'm guilty of the 1,000-yard stare and I'm an ex-gamer. Yes, mate, I know exactly what you mean. Ryan says, I've tended towards co-op games, other half of my son easier to play and enjoy. I would definitely agree. I think there's a lot less co-op miniatures games than there are co-op board games. Yeah. Wee Green Stunty says, I got my wife to play Eldritch Horror and she now loves it. Yeah, I think sometimes like a lot of people might not seem that interested. But like I would take you as an example. You've not really shown a huge amount of interest in playing miniatures games in general. However, you're keen to to give it a try.
But I would try, yeah. Yes, you're keen to give it a try. Offering to be a player.
Yeah, you are, yeah. So there, and I'll use a modder as an example. If I'd explained a modder to you, you probably just would have went, oh shit. However, but it didn't take much teaching.
No, it didn't.
Because essentially what I said to you was, here's 2 or 3 things you need to know. Right, now just what do you want to do?
It was good for that one.
Yeah. Peter says, my wife doesn't care one bit, so I leave her alone. I once played X-Wing with her, and first turn she flew the ship off the table. That was quite the statement. Jason says she's back. Glad to see we didn't scare her off last time. Welcome back. John says, did that drop off with Goblin Gaming coincide with credit card bills dropping from Christmas? Do you know what it is, mate? It was so those charts are basically however many times people click through the link, and I was generally getting multiple clicks per day. So you get like a graph of how many times people have clicked and how many conversions you get. So if somebody clicks and buys something, I see that as one little line, and if somebody just clicks it and doesn't buy it, they're a different line kind of thing.
And that was the line.
And basically, it was kind of bouncing around between maybe 15, 20 clicks a day, and then just went to 0 for a week. And it's only started to come back when I've emailed them twice and said, "Is there something wrong with this?" It seems weird that there was no clicks at all, mate. If there was no purchases, then I would completely agree. It lines up with Christmas credit cards. Marcus has finished basing his Casket of Souls. Nice one, mate. Hexy Beast says that App in Mansions and Madness builds the map and controls the story and makes up for when you cheat. I'm trying to think. In the past, did somebody have to play that part? Did somebody have to read a rule book and kind of set all the background stuff up and know what was going to happen? I know Imperial Assault had an app as well that allowed it to be single player, but I'm assuming Mansions and Madness was the same. George says, I agree with all the points. I'd add the first game needs to be around an hour max. If it interests, longer games may or might not fall. Yeah, I'd agree, mate. I think timing, as we talked about early on, time scale is a really important factor. Ryan says, first edition missions was a 1 versus many game. The second edition, the app takes the place of the 1. That's the kind of thing that I like the idea of. So basically, it's a board game we could play, but the app basically is controlling.
It's the opponent.
Yeah. Marcus, I agree. It should not be competitive in the first match unless you're losing and you add the wind rules at the end. Who would do something like that? Bobby says, what was that one? Find out their interest. My girlfriend loves Batman more than me, so we did a display including the Batmobile. She's big into SpaceX. We're planning a rocket launch Dio. It's all a slow grow towards gaming. Yeah, I mean, you definitely have to find a common interest. And sometimes you might have to kind of, pardon the pun, but take one for the team. Like it might not be the game that you want to play, but actually, if the potential other player is interested in it, maybe you just have to suck it up and give it a try.
Compromise.
Peter says, "Can I suggest Dreadfleet? Definitely not for beginners, mate." No, seriously, in the same theme, the Old Pirates Pocket Models game was actually quite good to get someone started. I've never even heard of it, mate. I wouldn't even know where to get one. Simon says, got to go unfortunately, but we'll catch you at the rest of the stream tomorrow. See you next week. And my partner Emma said she'll watch with me. Hope to see you again on the channel soon, Lou. There you go. You come back one day.
Maybe.
She says.
No promises.
I've seen that look before. I think I was explaining the story of it again. Ruas, good evening to you, mate. Better late than never. Warwick says, Rangers of Shadow Deep is an amazing co-op game. Rules aren't hard to learn either. I think if I showed you the rule book for Rangers of Shadow Deep, I think you'd probably run a mile.
Is it long?
It's just a thick book.
Yeah,
I think it's maybe just too much, but it doesn't make it a hard game.
Yeah.
I think it's that initial yeah. Eon910 says greetings from Arizona. My wife likes fantasy stories and will play D&D and Munchkin, but refuses to play war games. Find a game with elements of things your mate already likes helps. Yeah, you definitely have to there's got to be some interest, otherwise you're wasting your time from the off. Lord Maiden says I can always send over a starter box of BattleTech if you like. It's never ever interested me, mate, if I'm honest. The big kind of mech robots, like Japanese robots, has never really been my aesthetic, I'll be honest. Scott Jones, I recently started my girlfriend on Dead Zone. She picked up the rules so quickly. Mantic really have a great and streamlined rule set for beginners. The rules for Dead Zone, I would agree with. The reason I didn't put, I mentioned this early in the stream, the reason I wouldn't put Dead Zone and, what was the other one we talked about? Vanguard on, is I think Vanguard is a bit more difficult to play, if I'm perfectly honest. I think Kings of War is actually simpler to play. For all you need a lot more models. I think the rules are simpler. I think Dead Zone is just... it doesn't pass that Christmas morning test. Like the minis you have to be built when they come. Like you've got to build a lot of terrain and stuff. If you've already got it built up, maybe it wouldn't be a bad starting point. But it's basically, it's on a 2-foot square board. It's this stuff behind me here.
Oh yeah, haven't we played that before?
No, I don't think we have. I've played it with Sam.
I feel like we've used terrain like that and something else then.
Greg Cherry says, agree, list building turns my girlfriend off like Donald Trump. It turns me off as well, if I'm honest, mate. Simon Day says, okay, time for bed. Thanks for the stream. Thank you very much, mate. Ryan says, there are a few co-op mini games, skirmish games that can be co-op, such as Walking Dead, Fallout, Elder Scrolls, Rangers of Shadow Deep, and Frostgrave. Yeah, Fallout and Elder Scrolls. If your potential gaming buddy is into video games and stuff like that, could be a great introduction. Hexy Beast is first edition needed a sort out. Needed a sort of DM, but second is app control similar to Journeys in Middle Earth. Yes, basic difference between the two, apart from the theme, is one flipping cards for tests, the other's dice roll and one shots. I might have to check it out at some point. Good thing in these app-based systems is they boil down to 3 different actions: move, attack, and integrate. Great for beginners. VG says, BattleTech players, always the hard sell. It's almost GW redshirt level. I have noticed that in comments, VG, I'll be honest. Peter says, Pirates Pocket models came in boosters. Each booster contained enough to play a small game and a few plastic card chips. Never ever heard of them, mate. Blizzard says, Rune Wars is a pretty good one as a starter. All the E's are X-Wing and the minis are press fit and come with unit movement traits. Yeah, I think sadly you can't buy them anymore, can you, mate? The game was discontinued a little while ago. Hexy Beast says, Journeys Middle Earth doesn't have the annoying square bases, so get to the table quicker. It was by WizKids. I've still never heard of it, even though it was by WizKids. Raymond says, what's this live about? The name lured me in. Raymond, it started at 9 o'clock, mate, so we were talking about sort of good beginner intro games to kind of, in current times where we're in lockdown, you might only have your family at home, like you're kind of either your husband, your wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, kids maybe. What are the kind of games that would be good suggestions to introduce somebody that isn't technically a miniatures gamer to maybe get them to maybe be interested to want to try it, mate? So yeah, we've kind of done it to death a little bit now, mate. But if you are interested, either tomorrow, there's always a clips video on a Tuesday, which is about 5 or 10 minutes long, and it takes the main topic of the discussion, edit it down. You can catch up on that, or you can obviously go back and watch the start of the live stream when it's finished. Bodyguard of Lies. I'm just starting to paint some Gene Stealers using your How to Paint Gene Stealers cult. Thank you very much, mate. I will have to bail because I don't speak Geordie well enough to understand two of you talking at the same time. Sorry, mate. Tony Howell says, I'm in the process of writing Coronation Street, the RPG. You'll make millions, mate. Peter says, D&D adventure board games are co-op as well. Good to get D&D light in the game. D&D would absolutely you would instantly switch off, wouldn't you?
Yes.
Yeah.
There's no real reason for that. It's just, I don't know why. Just makes me...
You in your head, D&D is lots of people. No, is lots of people doing funny voices, isn't it? I think that's what you think D&D is.
Yeah.
It's not like that, but I think that was my opinion.
There's
before.
too many images of it in TV shows, isn't there? Of people being...
And that's the problem, isn't it? But that's the problem with miniature gaming. It was the thing about board gaming for a while as well. Like it was the thing about comic books. It was the same thing about video games. But unfortunately, like those stereotypical images, which may or may not be true, kind of stick, don't they? Where are we up to here? Christian talking about, thank you very much, Christian, for explaining that. Andrew saying, which of these games are set up to have a strip version for a date night? I tell you what, mate, if you're locked down in your home with your other half with nowhere to go and you need a board game to get your clothes off, mate, you've got bigger problems. Blizzard says, yeah, but you can pick everything up for cheap on Amazon. Yeah, you can, mate. Pomsy saying, you don't want to start by giving the impression the game is difficult. You want to say it's easy, you'll pick it up in no time. Give them a bit of Derren Browns. 3 hours later, right, are you ready to play now? Now we've gone over the business. Warwick says, Rangers of Shadow Deep, don't show the book, it's full of fluff. Talk to the person and ask questions, help build a ranger. See, I think even that would put you off if you had to build your character before you started. If in order for me to introduce something like that to you, I would literally need to do all of the background work, have everything ready to go, and just say, right, we're going to just do this now.
Do you mean by that, like, you have to build a mini up?
No, you've got to create your character. So you've basically got to say it's going to be an elf. It's going to it's going to have this much strength or whatever. It's going to have.
You see, I wouldn't know where to start.
Yeah. Hexy Beast says the adventure series of games are dungeon crawls are very different to the RPG. Yeah, I've got but I think we're talking about the theme basically, and with the theme kind of put you off. Christian saying I'll run a D&D one shot for you and Lou one day. Oh my god.
What's that?
A one shot basically is.
It makes me nervous.
No, it's basically just one little story that you do in like an evening.
Oh, right, okay.
So normally if you're playing D&D, like a lot of people when they really get into it, they do these kind of like months or years long campaigns.
Have you done one of them? Because you did something.
The one I did was Christian. Right? I didn't have to do a silly voice. Nobody did silly voices. Everybody was just. It's just like telling a story basically.
Yeah.
And it was way more fun than I thought it would be.
I remember you saying that. It was.
Raymond says I met my wife through World of Warcraft. I play 40k and trying to lure my wife into that world. She paints dragons now and just started Gloomhaven when COVID isn't ranging. I think from that, mate, it doesn't sound like you need to lure anybody, and it sounds like she's a willing participant. I'm going to say something which might sound stupid, but have you actually just asked her if she wants to have a go? It sounds like she might be actually, because I think a lot of partners think, well, that's their thing. I don't want to intrude on it, kind of thing, actually. So sometimes they might be dying to have a try, but don't want to kind of overstep it. George is doing lots of funny voices. That's every time I watch your stream. VJ says Strip Cthulhu. No, that's a game I never want to play. You're not wrong, mate. D&D definitely not like that. Well, for the most part, I've known people who will use a different voice from theirs. I think there's nothing wrong, and I'm not criticising anyone who does funny voices to create a character. I think for complete newbies like I was, and like you definitely would be, that would be the most intimidating thing in the world if I felt I had to go and act. Like that would
any role play just puts me off anything.
It might be like years down the line when you're with a group of people that you know really well and everybody's kind of comfortable. The last thing you want to do is put like a bit of a funny voice and everyone to go, what was that?
I just think about that voice I do for that Power Rangers Toya Jackson.
Oh god.
So I think I would have to speak.
Peter says, talking of accents, I live at the other end of the country to Andy, but I don't even notice the accent anymore. That's it, mate. You've been. This is what it is now. Everyone's in lockdown. You don't get to hear what everybody around you sounds like. You only get to hear the people that you watch on TV or listen to on the radio now. Scott says, my missus just says you're messing around with your toys again. I think a lot of partners do that. But then I guess like it's easy to make kind of flippant like jokes about it. But I guess a lot of hobbies are like that. Like if you were going out for a run and I go, oh, yeah, are you going like to see your jogging friends? Like anybody can take the mick out of any hobby kind of thing, can't they? Do you know what I mean? Or if you were into photography, I was going, oh, there she goes, Pete and Tom, out looking to see what the neighbours are doing. Like,
that is what you would say.
I would say that, yeah. Just Kev says, hey gang, hope you're all keeping well during lockdown. This topic reminds me of the time I tried to reach Star Wars Imperial Assault with the wife, or teach. We are lucky to still be together. Okay, all my friends have played D&D, which is around 30 people. There's only one person who does voices, and there's the picture of a stereotype on there. I think part of me kind of admires that, because I think if you get to a point where you're really getting into character,
you're invested, aren't you?
Some people kind of even like dress up.
Well, that's what I have in my mind.
No, but I think if you can get to that point, you're really invested in it. You've obviously put a lot of time and effort and energy into it, and you're with a group of friends who you are very, very trusting of, that you're not going to basically just be ridiculed. And actually, to get to that stage, I kind of admire that, really.
Well, I can't really dress it as a toilet roll before, haven't I? So I can hardly.
Let me just clarify, not for kind of like
not for fun,
not for not for bedroom fun, for a job, for work. Oh my God, let's dig out of that one. Raymond says, I feel like she's at the tipping point, but can't find any 40k army she likes. Okay, so what I would say then, mate, is 40k isn't the game for her. Like, this is kind of what we were talking about earlier on, really, is that sometimes you've got to make concessions. It might be, actually, if she tries something completely different, she might get a taste for kind of for gaming, and maybe 40k might become more interesting. But like, if I said to you, like, pick an army, I'll paint one for you, you'd be like, I'm bored.
Yeah, I wouldn't care. You can just give us some circle counters, I'd be fine.
Yeah. Warwick says, I've played D&D for 25 years. I can count the number of people who've done voices on one hand that's missing 2 fingers. Silly voices not required or not allowed, Christian. Oh, they're definitely, let's not call them silly voices now, because that's been a little bit gatekeepery. Not even accents. No, they're not silly. They are just character voices.
Yeah, it was a different accent though, wasn't it?
Yeah, but saying silly voices versus character accents is different, I suppose, character voices. I don't want to criticise anybody. That's just the stereotypical opinion of it. I don't want to criticise anybody that does it. Marcus says, the rest of us just learn to speak with different mannerisms or phrases, things differently from the normal way they would speak. I'll be honest with you, I didn't really know what to expect when Christian set it up for us. I didn't know what to expect of the other players. I had this horrible feeling that I'd be the only one not doing a voice, and that in itself would be quite kind of embarrassing. I was absolutely really, really fortunate. Christian, I trusted him kind of like complicitly. He set it all up. We even had like a call beforehand so he could take me how things worked, take me through things how it worked. I knew the people that were on the call as well. Obviously, like some of them, like the sort of like people that were in the chat now. And actually, it was good fun. I had a good laugh, but it took me maybe I would say it took me 40 minutes to go. All right, okay, so there's no surprises coming. Like I'm not suddenly going to have somebody like doing like. I was going to do this really shitty Yoda impression there, but I'm not going to do it.
Go on, do it.
No, I'm not going to do it. Paul says, stop encouraging her to play at 40k, you may as well offer her heroin. Scott says, I'm southerner in Whitby, or a white settler. I've never heard that before, a white settler. Warwick says, Critical Role being so popular has put a very high-end expectations for D&D that doesn't really exist in normal games with non-professional voice actors.
That's interesting.
I would agree. So Critical Role is like it's become this massive. It started like an online Twitch thing, but the people that do it, like, are people who do like voices for like for video games, like they're voice actors. And I think it has and now it's huge. It's blown up. It's one of the reasons D&D is so popular now. But I think it has put this kind of almost. It feels like a big leap from where you would be starting out, and it's also put this barrier up as like, oh well, all games everyone must be like that. Yeah. Bombsy says, slay a beast and then go for a pound chicken burger. Sounds good to me. Ryan says, 40k is probably not the best entry level. Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with that. Andrew says, it's the old joke about Critical Role. I'll start DMing like Matt Mercer when you start playing like the rest of the cast. John says, pew pew noises are mandatory. Pew pew noises are encouraged, especially when you're playing miniatures games. You know what pew pew noise? Like, you know when they shoot a gun.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Pew. Do you really do that?
In my head, I do every single time. Sometimes I even do it out loud without realising it. James says, I'm not a stereotypical nerd, but I probably do a little bit of a voice. I think in another life I'd have been an actor. Any excuse. I tell you what, mate. If you're a bit of a drama wannabe, mate, then go for it. Absolutely go for it. For me, I'm much more what's the word I'm looking for? Not outgoing. Reserved, I think. I'm much more reserved, really. I think I'd be way too embarrassed to do it.
I think I would give it a go if I was doing it.
Yeah, because you're proper, like, you should have been on stage. You're proper over the top. You do silly voices all the time.
I know, I think I probably would just to make it more fun.
Scott says, going to get God Tier and try the good lady with that. I think she will give it a go, to be honest. We've played God Tier. Yeah, you enjoyed it, didn't you? Yeah. Lord Maiden says, I would say if people can continue with character's voice continuously, has a great talent, but it's not required at all, and only if you're comfortable with it. I'd agree, mate, yeah. I think people who do it, I think, like I say, I've got great respect for them, and I think actually to one, have the confidence, to two, have the trust in the people that they're playing with, and three, as you say, be able to keep it up. Because, I mean, games of like some games last years. People they don't just sit there for years.
No, but how is that not?
Because it's just an ongoing story. Like, just because you've got to the end of one story doesn't mean that party then don't go on another quest together, go on another story. And when you talk about D&D, Dungeons and Dragons is a brand of role-playing games, and it's set with wizards and elves and dragons and that kind of stuff, monsters. But role-playing games can also be about anything. Yeah, like anything else. Yeah. So just because, so you don't have to do
just really turn it into a generic theme.
It's a little bit like how Hoovers are called Hoovers, basically. I think everybody thinks of D&D as role-playing, but role-playing is all the different genres. Yeah. Jess says, I do stupid voices all the time. I can't help it. Really handy because I do storytelling for a living when I'm not leather working, and it's a canny handy habit for that. I tell you what, mate, when you're good at it, then you definitely should be doing it. George says, great stream, both of you. Cheers. Thank you very much, George. Christian says, you've been away too long to Palmsy. Chicken burgers for £1 don't exist anymore unless you want food poisoning. I bet you can still get them for €1 over in Spain though. Phil says, my other half constantly refers to my cool toys as your shit and seems to think it takes up too much room in the house. After spending all weekend putting all of my cool shit in the loft. Yeah, I've got too much as well.
It's now where it belongs.
Kind of boarding out a little bit of the loft so I can put stuff up there. Marcus, click the link. Hope it works. Thanks for a great evening chat and big thanks to the wife Lou. Too. Lou is it. Yeah, it is Lou. Got to go to bed. See you next week. Thank you very much, Marcus. ER910 says, in D&D I do voices when I run games. See, this is why you don't alienate people by saying things like, they're all nerds.
I didn't say that.
I'm not saying you. I meant me when I was saying about doing silly voices. But I don't require my players to. I think it can it can be immersing, I think, but as somebody who's only ever played once, to me, it strikes the fear of God into me. Like I said before, I either thought I was going to be expected to do it, or I thought I'd be the only one not doing it.
Yeah. You'd have to just do it for fitting in then.
I don't think I could. I'd have to make it up on the spot then. I wouldn't have.
You'd have probably just done a really deep voice.
Oh, hello. I've come for the adventure.
What was that?
I don't know. That's exactly what would have happened because I would have had to just do it on the spot. Marcus says, since most of my characters in RPGs are female, I really make no effort in the character voices, but tried once and it hurt my throat. Never did again. Warwick says, yes, poor trout. Warwick says, Matt Mercer said the new players who were introduced to D&D via Critical Role tend to have very lofty and unrealistic expectations for their first games. He's a bit sad about it, as many quit. I can imagine, actually, they've definitely it's great that they've raised the bar and they've raised the awareness and it's becoming more popular because of it. But as somebody who has just only done their first introduction, it was a lot less stressful than I think I was anticipating. James says, I can't read my son a book with that ridiculous voice for every character. Daddy, just be normal. Daddy, I've tried that. We read his Batman stories and stuff like that, and I've tried doing the Batman voice, and he just looks at me like, is there something wrong with you?
You haven't nailed it yet.
I obviously haven't. Is there something wrong with your voice? What's going on? Why are you doing the Batman voice?
I want to do it now, but I'm not going
to. Peter says, we have one guy in the group, and every time someone makes pew pew noises when playing X-Wing, he's like, there's no sound in space, right? Tony says he lives in Hornsey for about 8 years. Now I get ribbed about my accent, but I'm not public enemy number 1 or 2. The locals have been very friendly and accepting. Raymond says, I do weird voices in everyday conversation. People have gotten used to it.
Like me.
We'll kind of do stupid voices at home when we're just messing about. Yeah. But we'd never do it in public.
I probably would.
You probably would.
In front of people I'm friends with, not just people I don't know.
John says, it feels like I've been doing the stupid voice of a cider drinking farmer for the last 5 years.
At least since the start of lockdown.
Yeah, more cider this time, mate. Mark said, I think the best players are those who make characters that are not just a fantasy version of themselves. I have played characters with all sorts of personalities. I'll be honest, I felt quite a bit of pressure, and this wasn't because of like Christian or anything like that, but creating the character for my first time, I didn't know really. Like I knew what I had to do because I kind of read the stuff and Christian taught me through things, but I had no idea whether it was going to be like what I was doing really. I've just noticed that it'll pop up on the screen in a second, but I assume that's for a chicken burger, mate. Is it? Paul said, I don't really like D&D, but sadly I play it. I've been playing RPGs for getting on 30 years now, where everyone I know just wants to play DNF&D. I don't do any voice sillier than my own. Yeah, I think that's the thing. I think these days everyone just thinks D&D is role playing. Are you reading ahead?
Yeah, can't help myself.
Jez says, wait, you two played a martyr and on shouting, "Yo, fire a broadside, you scurvy dogs, what's wrong with you?" She called me some names, but scurvy dog wasn't one of them. Yeah. Paul says all my D&D characters are like middle-aged monks. I've got a vision of Bez now, mate, playing D&D. Ryan says, when I GM, I try vary some voices for different NPCs, but I'm awful at voices and accents, so probably sound the same. I think people appreciate the effort, though, mate. I think that's the thing. It never has to be sort of perfect. It needs to, like, it's the fact that you've made an effort, really. Not like me. Like mine just sounded like a confused and slightly shy version of me. Flying Mods has been together with Sean for 18 years. Even though we're both gamers before we met, we both like different parts of gaming and get each other into different games. Some games we prefer to play with others. Yeah, I completely. It's like
there's some games you wouldn't want to play with me because I wouldn't be interested.
It's even like us watching TV shows. I mean, that's a prime example as well. Is there's stuff that you'll go, "Oh, do you fancy watching this?" And I'm like, "No, I can't. Else chance." And then there's stuff I'll want to watch that you don't want to see. So yeah. Christian says RPGs with the right people are great for your mental health and socialising, as well as the fun of playing a game you'll all enjoy. I had a great time, mate, when we played ours, and I know there's another one coming up soon as well, which is going to be awesome as well. I literally don't really speak to anybody else apart from you, so any reason to speak to other people, and sometimes people don't reach out to speak to other people. If that's an organised game and that's the way that we get, like, you get people talking to each other, it's really good. It's a really great idea. Peter says, for real D&D, you need to watch Acquisitions Incorporated instead of Critical Role, cursing and messing with the DM and taking the mick out of each other. Palmsy saying, just seeing if Arnold is still about. I thought you were buying me a chicken burger, mate. I was going to say the conversion rate looks like it was 89p. I'm definitely getting food poisoning. We're an 89p chicken burger, mate. That's for sure. Waddick says, great stream. Have a good rest of your evening, everyone. Time to repair the front door now. Oh. Have you been kicking the front door, mate? Was it that bad a stream? Andrew Fairbanks says, can we still get in on the D&D group, or is it a little full? I've had a character in mind that should be easy to fit anywhere. Christian's running it, mate. I've got nothing to do with it. Christian's organising it, so he's the guy to check with, mate. Have a look in the...
He's replied.
Oh, there you go, mate. I was going to say, have a check in the Discord group, mate. Paul says, imagine a female elf who sounds like Noel Gallagher. Mark says, the really reason some people shouldn't do voices, if it goes wrong, it could come off as a racial stereotype and make everyone uncomfortable. Yes, there is always that. There's always
so
that. Isn't
hard,
there?
Isn't it? It's really hard.
I know. And Ryan says, I agree. I think you know what your other half might enjoy, tolerate, but often you want them to play X, even though you know it isn't a good idea. Yeah, I mean, there's loads of times where you said, I'll give it a go with you, and I've went, I'm not putting you through it, and like, I appreciate that you're offering assistance to kind of to play it with me, but I know you're going to hate it before we start, so let's not do it.
The offer's there.
The offer's there. And on that, I think we're going to wrap it up, because we're getting up towards 11 o'clock now. It takes me 5 minutes to kind of say my goodbyes and stuff and turn all my computer and things off. So, Boggy's just off for his dinner as well. I hope you had a lovely dinner, mate, as well. We've had a great stream. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, every single one of you that's come in tonight. Thank you, Lou, as well. It was much appreciated. It was much easier to kind of bounce some of that stuff off you as somebody that doesn't really play games very often.
Different perspective, I suppose.
Yeah, different perspective. Christian just sharing the link there for the Patreon group as well. Thank you very much. Remember, if you do join the Patreon group, it gets you access at whatever level you pledge. It gets you access to the Discord group as well, which is essentially like this chat. Basically, everybody just chatting away 24 hours a day because there's people from all over the world, so there's always somebody in there. So yeah, I would love to see you in the Discord chat as well. If you haven't checked out any of my more recent videos as well, please go back and check them out. What was the last one I did? Last one was last Wednesday was the painting stream. Tuesday we did the 10,000 subscriber giveaway. Oh, yeah. Subscribers has gone through the roof since then. Let's see where we are tonight. So bearing in mind, 2 weeks on Wednesday coming, we hit 10,000. And we are now at, let's have a look. The survey says we are now at, oh, it's waiting, it's not waiting. Oh, we're now at 11,400.
Amazing.
So yeah, we've gone up by 1,400 subscribers.
Amazing.
In, what's that, 11 days? Something like 12
that? Days.
12 days. So yeah, it's gone a bit nuts of late, folks. Oh, reach good night, boyos. I knew I could do accents. Nice one. Thank you as well, Eddie as well, says for the wonderful company. Thank you to every one of yous, and I will see you on Wednesday's Hobby Hangout. So thanks a lot, folks. See you next time.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks for watching my video. I hope that you really enjoyed it. And if you did, why not consider clicking on the suggested video below to see more of the work that I've done. If you'd like to support the long-term sustainability of this channel, why not consider checking out my Patreon, where you can pledge and support from as little as $2 a month. And there is lots of different tiers and bonuses, which will give you access to a private Discord server. It will give you free t-shirts, free mugs, a podcast every month, and a number of other things, including getting your name at the end of every video, like these awesome folks who already support me now.